I'm happy to introduce Ardra Cole to those of you that haven't met her before. She is our founder and executive director, and she's going to share her story of ElderDog. Welcome, Ardra.
Thank you, Tanya. And thank you everyone for joining today and for all the work that you do. I know that some of you, or many of you, would know that ElderDog started up in 2012 operationally, but there was so much more that happened in the years before that. And all of that was very heartfelt and heartful. And in Tanya's opening comments, she talked about, this series of fireside chats being about uncovering the heart of ElderDog, because that's really where ElderDog started and where and what continues to inspire and keep us all going and doing the wonderful work that we do. So I'm going to take you back to the beginning of ElderDog, how it came about and why. And I have a compilation of images that that make up the pieces of inspiration that came together to create ElderDog, and I'll share those with you in a minute. So when I think about ElderDog and how it started, I think sometimes that it was like a bolt of lightning. It just hit me. And then sometimes I think that it very gently tapped me on the shoulder and said, come on, you can do this. What are you waiting for? And I think it was somewhere in between, I guess. But in any case, I think about ElderDog as emerging, being inspired by, and I guess presenting itself out of a coming together of experiences, both personal and professional. And when I think about ElderDog and the heart of ElderDog, I think that in many ways, ElderDog was created out of love in the shadow of loss. And that continues to drive ElderDog. It drives me forward. And I wanted to share some of that story with you because our work in ElderDog continues to be about life and love and loss. All right, the beginnings of ElderDog. So as I mentioned, these are kind of puzzle pieces, for lack of a better way of describing them. And I'm just going to kind of describe these various pieces and then share how they all came together to create ElderDog. So in the upper left corner is you'll see on a red blanket or a large piece of fleece, a number of silhouettes of dogs. And this is a part of a research project that I did many years ago, a number of years ago in the 2000s, between 2003 and 2008. And this part of the research was called Caring Canines. It emerged as a finding out of my research. So for those who don't know, I'm an academic, I'm a university professor. And so I'm currently at Mount St. Vincent University in Halifax, Nova Scotia. But prior to moving to Halifax, I was at the Ontario Institute for Studies in Education at the University of Toronto. I was there for 25 years. And while I was there, I had a program of research focused on understanding what care looks like for those who are caring for a loved one with Alzheimer's disease. And so my research partner and I traveled across the country over the course of those several years and asked people to describe to us what care looked like. We gave people cameras to take pictures of what care looked like. We asked them to come forward with a symbol or an artifact or a metaphor of care. We collected those photographs and objects, and we interviewed people in various places and as individuals and clusters and groups. And all of that information informed us in very powerful ways about what it meant to care for a loved one with forms of dementia.
Mhm.
But one of the things that was unanticipated and really unsolicited, so in other words, we didn't ask the question, you know, what about dogs? But people came forward with photographs of dogs as being part of the care team, symbols of dogs, plush dogs, dog treats, pictures of dogs, parts of you know, whether it was a collar or a leash of belonging to a dog. And they talked with us about the important role that dogs played in the on the care team, whether it was providing companionship for the ill loved one, and more than companionship, but important, many important roles that included helping people feel a sense of independence and being needed and being able to communicate in ways that we don't do so well at communicating when we lose words. But in addition to that, they people talked about, the caregivers talked about the important role that dogs played for them as family members. If some of you, I would assume, would know and have direct experience or even indirect experience with a loved one with dementia, and you know that caring is what's often called a 36-hour day. It's very stressful, it's very challenging, and in many cases, the family dog provided that distraction, the reduction of stress in the environment, and of course, many other roles that the dog played. So that really piqued my interest. So the other thing you should know, when I do research, I don't do conventional research, as you can see. I usually represent that work in artistic ways to make it publicly accessible. So this piece, Caring Canines, was part of an exhibit, and one of the places, and this picture was taken in the City Hall of Toronto, where it was displayed in, it was an 11-piece exhibit. It was displayed for a long period of time, and members of the public would come in and visit and spend time with the exhibit and learn about caregiving and Alzheimer's disease. So we'll just, well, then one thing more I'll say, so that my interest was piqued in the role that dogs played in seniors' lives, both ill and well. And I was challenged, I challenged myself to really dive into that literature and explore that further. So I'm gonna just leave that for a second and I'll come back to it. So on the right hand of the screen, with the green background, you'll see a beautiful Portuguese water dog, brown Portuguese water dog named Tattoo. And I might tear up on this one. So Tattoo, my now deceased heart dog, Tattoo and I were volunteers in for a wonderful organization called Therapeutic Paws of Canada. And Tattoo and I, for many years, visited in long-term care and palliative care, and especially palliative care units of long-term care facilities. And when Tattoo would walk through the door, the glass doors of the building with me in tow, because it wasn't really about me. I was just there to escort him. He transformed the environment, and observing him at work was one of the most humbling experiences I have had. And because of that, Tattoo was a tremendous inspiration for ElderDog. So when we would walk through the door and through the corridor, it was like Tattoo was a rock star, and the hands would outstretch, and he was like the VID, the very important dog who was strolling down the corridor, and the hands would be outstretched, and people, many of whom were not did not speak well or much, would have words of endearment and would reach out to Tattoo. And when he walked into a room, it was like the light went on. And when I observed him at work, he just knew intuitively exactly what to do. When I, as a mere human, was not often able to figure out what I could do to provide comfort to someone at a difficult point in their life. But Tattoo did know, whether it was to lie, sit alongside someone and just to be petted, or to find a way of very carefully and gingerly jumping up on a bed to lie alongside someone, it just in close contact for comfort, or to be a little bit more playful with family who were dealing with this very difficult, emotionally charged time of their life when they were losing a loved one. And he was so amazing. And I just witnessed firsthand the power of dog companionship at this particular time of life and death. And so his sensitivity towards human emotion and need, and his capacity for empathy were humbling. And it was a gift to be with him as he worked the room, and made people, just brought people joy when sometimes joy was not what they were experiencing. I'll leave that for a minute as well. And I'll go to the bottom left corner. You'll see a man with a dog. The man is my brother, my late brother, David, and a very young Mr. Brown. The older Mr. Brown, you'll see on the right-hand side of the screen with the beautiful white muzzle. So my brother David died very suddenly in 2008. And he died of a heart attack, and Mr. Brown was at his side. And Mr. Brown, looking more like the Mr. Brown on the right-hand side of the screen, was old and ill at that time. He had terminal cancer, and but he was still full of life and spirit. So he was just a gentle soul. And when my brother died, I very quickly stepped forward and offered, well, I didn't really offer it, I just stated very clearly that Mr. Brown was going to come to live with us in the pack, because we lived in a rural environment, and Mr. Brown had medical needs that I could afford. And I just wanted to be able to give him the life, the rest of his life. Turned out to be 2 years in the best kind of environment and comfort and quality of life that he deserved and needed. So Mr. Brown did come to live in the country with me and the rest of the dogs. And it was during that time of being with Mr. Brown in the rural property in Ontario where we lived, going for walks and, being very aware, having just lost my brother so suddenly, being very aware of the fragility of life and the relative brevity of our time on earth. And I became haunted by a need to act and to use my resources and my privilege as an academic to make a positive difference. So during those long walks with dogs in the fields and the woods, it became a time to ponder two significant questions. One of them was, what happens to the Mr. Browns in the world who lose their human companions? And the second one was, what was I going to do to try to make a difference? So that was in 2008. So the more that I thought about those two questions, the clearer my mission became and the clearer the connection between all of these pieces: aging people and aging dogs. So, like I said at the beginning, whether it was a lightning bolt or a gentle tap on the shoulder, ElderDog presented itself. I would say on those walks in the woods and in the fields with dogs, with Tattoo, with Mr. Brown, in the memory of my brother, and always hearing the words of the seniors and their caregivers who talked so passionately about the important role of dogs in their life, in their lives. So for the next 3 years, I rolled up my sleeves, put my head down, and decided that this was going to be my mission for the rest of my life. So from 2000, late 2008 to 2011, early 2011, was very busy. It was a time of foundational work, building that foundation for ElderDog. It meant visioning and conceptualizing, okay, I have this idea, but what's ElderDog going to look like? And when Roy and Gary introduced themselves as founding board members, being there at the very beginning, what that meant was conversations about this not so crazy idea of ElderDog, bouncing ideas back and forth and around, and checking in with them and on, just conceptualizing, well, what about this? And what if we do this? And so on and so forth. And so there was a lot of that, a lot of developing our guiding principles, which we all know now is our credo. And everyone who has a photo ID has that credo in the pocket. It's what we live by. It's what we've been guided by from day one. It meant developing the I guess, the early stages of our programs, what ElderDog was going to look like, what we were going to do. It meant all of the intricate planning that needs to go into building, developing an organization that is very large in scope and vision and starting from square one. So it meant, website, logo, contact information, all of the fiddly bits. And of course, preparing our first application to become a federally incorporated nonprofit, which took a while. And that happened in September of 2009. That's when ElderDog became an official reality. So then once it was real, we had to kind of think, okay, put your money where your mouth is. Well, I really literally did put money where my mouth was, but that's beside the point. I knew that, as I mentioned, the more that ElderDog became clearer to me and became a reality, even conceptually, I knew that this was going to be my passion for the rest of my life. And because my brother had recently passed away in Toronto, my only other family member was in Nova Scotia, which is my home. And I felt a compelling need to return home to Nova Scotia and to start ElderDog here. So that was a transformative moment because it meant finding work in Nova Scotia, leaving my tenured position at the University of Toronto, leaving our beautiful home in Ontario in this gorgeous property. And yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot of change and giving up and risk and so on and so forth. And but nevertheless, that was the decision. And so I was fortunate to, it's all part of ElderDog magic, as we call it, but just around the time I was pondering that, a dream job became available at Mount St. Vincent University, and I applied for it and became the Associate Vice President Research at the Mount, and moved to Nova Scotia and to that work in the winter of 2011. And then it became time to find a place for ElderDog to call home. And so I had drawn a map of my mind's eye of ElderDog. And I have that map to this day. And the search began. And after a lot of looking, found this property that we now call ElderDog land. I live on part of that property. And it houses ElderDog's national office. And it's a beautiful park-like setting for those who haven't had the opportunity to be here, with trails and gardens and a large events barn, and recently is also home to Place to Pause, which is our beautiful chapel to commemorate dogs who have passed away. So in 2012, after having found the property, moved in, did what we needed to do to get the place ready to start, we started our first ElderDog pod in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia in May 2012, followed by a pod in its very early stages in Halifax later in May 2012. And then that was followed that same year by a Calgary pod, and then Central Nova, and then later Lunenburg County. And then we've been growing and growing and growing ever since. And I think that when I look back, we've grown exponentially. But I think one of the proudest things that I can say about ElderDog is that it's still, our work is still guided by heart and love. And I think, well, I know that that question, you know, how can we try to make a difference? I think we answer, each and every one of you and all of the 1,700 plus volunteers who are working with ElderDog now, answer that question every day, because you know what the difference we make. And that difference comes from only one place. Well, it comes from the hard work, but it also comes from that one central place where ElderDog all began, and that is from the heart. And I will end there.